then I have a client who has autoimmune issues, and there was some other reason that I had recommended to her to use 3 Wise Men, and she had read on your site that it strengthens the immune system. So I would like just a few guidelines on.
Yeah, it shouldn't make an autoimmune issue like worse. Like there's some things that are really like stimulating. It's like it's strengthening to the immune system, but more like fortifying, because like even if you take something like cinnamon, which is very stimulating to the immune system, even when somebody has an autoimmune issue, they can still take it. You just have to drop the dosage, and you can increase the frequency. And so I don't talk about that too much, just because, I don't want people to overdo it or something like that. But Moroccan thyme is always good for somebody with autoimmune type issues. Melissa can be good. Apparently tonight is the night about Melissa. Melissa can be good, but even vetiver vetiver or ruscus can be very nice for autoimmune type related issues. Do we know what kind of autoimmune type?
Well, I didn't. My awareness of her whole situation is limited. So she has MS. Is that autoimmune? Is that what she's talking about? I hadn't thought of it.
She like testing for the MS and everything. They probably have found that she has some markers for autoimmune.
Okay.
I'm getting a little bit of a vibe that there's a component of the autoimmune response that goes after mucous membranes. And the tendency is for like the eyes to be dry, the mouth to be dry, the lungs to be dry, the sinuses to be dry, even the digestive tract. And I'd ask her about that. If it's not the case, but if it is the case, Shazandra would be super helpful for that.
Okay. Yes.
But going back to the 3 Wise Men, I would say instead of 3 Wise Men, you still can treat the endocrine system, but use lemon verbena. And the reason being, lemon verbena is still a tonic for the endocrine system, but in Europe, they use lemon verbena to treat some of the symptoms for MS. And it doesn't really it's one of those weird things where it really doesn't treat the MS itself, but it treats some of the symptoms and is like calming and soothing, and can be very relaxing and kind of help get them out of like I don't want to say crisis state, but when the MS is a bit more active and it starts nudging them more to a state where there's a greater potential for remission. And so I would go kind of hard on the lemon verbena.
Okay.
Like 2-3 drops internally. I mean, they could do a little bit more, but I'd start them off at 2-3 drops just to make sure they feel comfortable, but they could easily double that, like do it just like twice a day if it's working for them. I would do that instead of the 3 Wise Men. The 3 Wise Men will still work, but just because of the MS, I would say, yeah. And then just things that are calming and soothing to their body. Things like marjoram and things that just take tension out of their body. And you're doing healings and things like that, but like sometimes when they're in a crisis, even a little bit of body work can help them, but not necessarily like massages and things where there's like compression for like 3 to 5 seconds and then release, and then compression and release. And what that does is it calms down the nervous system.
Mm.
And you know, like even, well, just anywhere on the body where they're having like those issues, that type of body work where they would compress and then release. And so there's different kinds of body work that potentially could do that, but rubbing, it doesn't bring a lot of relief, but the compression and then release, that kind of helps to re-educate those nerves. You're not going to make it go away, but at one point, like I'd say 30 years ago or so, the MS Society even recognized certain forms of therapy that involved compression and release as a form of reducing symptoms. It didn't cure anything, it didn't do anything, but it just reduced some symptoms. And so
Do you know of any of the therapies that
like there's one called like I want to call it Tuina or Tuna, like Tuina, and then like shiatsu, some neuromuscular therapies can do some forms of that.
okay.
Every once in a while, there's certain types of sports massage that they'll do something like that, but it's usually mixed in with a bunch of rubbing. And so the rubbing doesn't hurt. It's just, it doesn't help a whole lot. Like
Yeah.
the compression is actually what helps.
Mm.
I mean, even getting one of those like little compression guns and then having them like do it on their body. I mean, those things can be helpful in those situations because it's, you know, it's compressing faster than 3 to 5 seconds, but it's still compression. And so it will help reduce symptoms a little bit.
Would you turn it down so it's not real powerful, or
Whatever they're comfortable with.
Okay.
Like sometimes people are very highly sensitive, and sometimes you can stand on the person, they'd go harder, you know, it kind of depends on the person.
Yeah, okay. And